Hey friends, it's Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. Today I'm going to journal a memory that happened about a year ago, and I've kept the pictures just kind of, on my desk, but just haven't really ever figured out how I wanted to document this day. So it's going to be kind of like a photo dump, where I'm just going to slap the pictures on, and if it turns out artistically pleasing, awesome. If not, it's going to be more about just recording the memory. So because this was a year ago, I've got to figure out when exactly this happened. So I'm looking through my planner that I had last year, and I thought this was a day in August. But when I looked, I found that it wasn't in August, it was actually in September. So now that I know when this happened, I can go ahead and get started in my little journal. And the little journal was a book that I made. I'll link the video below, but this was a book that I made just recently, and it is absolutely huge. So it's kind of an experiment. I've never journaled in something with a 4-inch spine before. I'm kind of just feeling my way through this. I've actually done a couple of pages already in this journal. So I'm kind of flipping around here trying to figure out what page I want to work on. I actually want to kind of go in order, which is pretty odd for me because I'm usually pretty scattered and random. I liked in my traveler's notebook when I used it last spring, I liked how the book started at the beginning and then it just progressed through time. So I kind of wanted that feel with this journal, but I was a little concerned about journaling from start to finish just because it might have an uneven bulk, like there might be one side of the book might be more bulky than the other. So I don't know, I'm going to have to see how that works. So I kind of chose some pages that are closer to the beginning of the book. And I noticed that the page I want to use in this signature seems to be a little loose. Now, this can be something common in handbound books because, of course, they're not perfect. But it's also common if you have pages that are of different heights, because when you go to bind them, you are going to have shorter pages with taller pages. And so therefore, when you use your thread, you may not have the same thickness at each one of your threading points. In my traveler's notebook, I usually, every time I opened up to a new page, a new double page spread, I would somehow adhere those pages together. I'd either use washi tape. In this case, I'm just gluing a strip of wrapping paper down. So what that does is it just kind of binds the two pages together and just makes it a little more sturdy. I want to use this old map that I just found, and I want to use it because it's got the word Kansas. And in this day that I'm going to journal about, it was a day that we went to a sunflower farm in Kansas. Now, I live right on the border of Kansas and Missouri, so going to Kansas is really not that big of a deal. But this was a big deal because it is a little bit farther out west. And this farm is just awesome. It is gigantic, and the people who own it just let anybody come out, take pictures, walk around, cut sunflowers. They don't charge, but they ask for donations, and it's just a really awesome thing to do if you live in this area. So this just happens to be some photos from a day that we went to the sunflower farm. So I backed the right-hand side with some papers, and the reason why I did that was because I felt like that paper was a little bit thin, and I know I'm going to load this with photos, so I wanted to make it a little thicker. And now I'm just kind of placing the photos, and I think I'm going to go in a linear or a grid pattern, which seems kind of stodgy. I know it does seem like just a photo dump, but I think if I don't line them up perfectly, if I make them kind of haphazard and don't have perfect lines and perfect symmetry, I think I'll be able to create that quirkiness that I like to have in my journals. So after I did that, I decided that something that would kind of make this a little more fun would be to take some of those scraps of wallpaper or wrapping paper and put those in the background. So I'm just going to grab a few of these scraps, and that blue paper that I laid at the top of the right hand side, that is some wrapping paper that I used on a journal that I just made. And it makes my head swim. It is so pretty. The blues and the turquoise and the green, oh, it is so, so dreamy. So I only had one sheet of that. I used most of it on the journal, and I have just a couple little scraps. So this actually thrills me to get to use it in this spread. And I think it'll work really well with the bright sunflowers. So making sure that I put some wrapping paper on both the right hand and the left hand side to kind of marry the two sides. And then just using a little card to smooth out my papers. I'm going to line my pictures up again. And I found this little envelope that I had laying on my desk. And I think I'm going to use that in this as maybe like a pocket for journaling. So I have a collection of horizontal pictures and vertical pictures. And I think what I'm going to do is do, on the right hand side, try to do all vertical pictures. Now, one of the things that I did to create a little bit of funkiness was I left some an extra long border, like the picture I'm laying down right now. There's a little bit longer of a border underneath the photo. It kind of looks like a little bit like a Polaroid, and that's just something that I like to do when I'm trimming down my photos. If I can leave a little bit of that extra border, it makes a great place for journaling. It is a great place to put the date. I'm going to actually stamp some things in that area, but it kind of makes a little extra interest because not all the photos will look alike. And it also makes them look a little, like I said earlier, like a Polaroid, which is kind of cool. So I did that on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, I have some horizontal pictures, and I did the same thing. So that envelope that I have, I'm going to turn into a journal pocket, and I'm going to stick it at the top of the page, and it can go off the page because the page on the left-hand side is actually shorter than the rest of the pages in the book, so my envelope can actually hang off the top, which will look kind of cool from the back side. And then I'm just going to put a photo on the lid of the envelope, and then add my other photos underneath. And then I will actually get a little label. This is an old soda label from my sweet friend Lisa. It's Crafty Lisa's Vintage, and she and I, actually we go way back, and she bought one of my very first journals that I ever made, and so I bought some fun ephemera from her actually a couple of times, and she has really cool stuff like cigar labels, soda pop labels. One of my favorite things is she gave me some tuna can labels. Just fun, weird stuff. I will link her Instagram below. I know I've talked about her in another video, but she has some really cool stuff. So if you're ever looking for some ephemera, she would be a great person to contact. She has an Etsy store. Okay, so now I've got this crazy idea that I'm going to make some sort of a like a window where I can slide photos in and out. And I'm going to do it on that left-hand side because it's already folded over. And so that would be a great place to just kind of adhere the edges, and it'll make like a pocket, and then I'll cut windows and I can slide a tag with some photos in and out of that pocket. Now this actually is easier said than done. So this whole process took quite a while and a lot of creative editing, and I cut out a lot of the video. But the whole point of this was I wanted to keep this not perfect. I wanted this to be messy. I wanted it to be almost childlike. So I could have easily taken a punch and just punched out squares for the windows, but I didn't want that to be, I didn't want it to be that precise. So as I'm contemplating how I want this to work, I go back to some washi tape and start adding washi tape to these photos as I'm trying to figure out how I want to cut these windows without having to use a punch. Once I put some washi tape down, I got my pencil out and just decided to mark where I think my photos might be. And then just took my scissors and did a very messy cut and kind of tore the paper out for a couple of windows. So my pictures on one side are vertical, and then my pictures that are going to go on the other side are horizontal. So that kind of creates a little bit of a, well, an interesting predicament as I go to do this. So I want those windows to have a little bit of a border, so I just go over it with my pencil, and then I'm adding some washi tape to the edges. The orange that I'm using actually works really well with the sunflowers that are over on the right hand side, and I didn't mean for that to happen. It just so happened that orange was what I picked up, but it worked out really well because they kind of counterbalance each other out. So I'm liking the placement of these pictures, but now I need to figure out how I'm going to do that back side. And again, like I said, one side was vertical, the other side was horizontal, so it got a little tricky. But what I did basically was the same thing. I just kind of marked off where my photos were going to be. I stuck my scissors in and just messy cut a couple of windows. And one had a little bit extra paper, the one on the bottom, so instead of cutting that off, I just folded it. And then I went around it with my pencil again to kind of make just like a little messy border. I decided to glue down that little flap there. I'll ultimately go back and I think I add some ink and some paint and stuff around the border. So here's the part that got really, really messy. Gluing down just the edge, and I edited a ton of this because it took forever to get the glue perfect so that my tag could slip in and out. But once I fiddled around with it for a while, it actually works really well, and so I was happy with it. I like it. I want to go around my photos with my black China marker, kind of give them some little interest since they're going to be tucked away in that little window pocket. And now I'm going to use a stamp and just kind of stamp some phrases and dates in those little extra spaces underneath a few of those photos. So on this picture, I'm going to add a phrase from one of our all-time favorite movies, which is Dumb and Dumber. And it was in the movie, the guy says, "Go West, Lloyd." And so if you've ever seen Dumb and Dumber, you understand what that means. So I just took some little stickers that I had and put "Go West, Lloyd" across the top of that picture, and then slid it in the little window pocket. And I'm loving that, and I think it looks pretty good. I made a little journaling card out of a leftover piece of map paper and then some leftover cardstock from that tag. And I wanted to add a picture from my North American field guide of a sunflower. So I originally thought I was going to put it on the journaling card, but as soon as I cut it out, I decided that it actually would look better on the envelope. So I glued it on the envelope. I'm ready for my journaling now, and I pulled my planner back out so that I could write down everything that I had done that day. We actually did quite a bit. School had just started, and we were both pretty tired from going back to work, so this was a weekend where we kind of just went out and had some fun on a Saturday. I'm okay with journaling or scrapbooking about things that happened a year ago. I always write down stuff that we did in my planner or my traveler's notebook. So when I feel like talking about those memories or feel like writing those down or putting them in my journal, I can always go back to my notebook or my planner and see what we did that day. And sometimes I like that better than doing my scrapbooking or journaling immediately after we've done something, because once I've let it sit for like a year or so, I find that the important stuff is the stuff I remember. And that seems to be the stuff that I journal about. It's the important stuff that I remember and I write down and I want to capture from that day. And I kind of forget all the small little things that maybe weren't the most important, that maybe didn't make that day as magical as I remember it. So I took a break and came back to this and decided that there needed to be something more. It was looking too much like a photo album and I needed to add some other stuff to it. So I got out my paint pens and added a little detail. I went around the pictures with a green colored pencil to kind of give some shadowing. And then I decided that I needed to have some sort of a title. So I pulled out my big box of my alphabet stickers. These are all the leftovers I had from my old scrapbooking days, and I hate for these things to go to waste, so I always try to mix and match different alphabets to get the title that I want. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And I decided that I was just going to title this One of Those Days, because this was one of those days where we leave in the morning and we don't get back until late in the evening, and we have just done all kinds of crazy adventures. And we have those days quite a bit, and I love those days. And so that was kind of the feeling I got when I was putting this all together. I was like, oh yeah, this was one of those days. almost done with this, just adding a little more detail by taking my gel pen and putting in some color in those alphabet stamps. So I think I need to add just a few little details like some stickers. Last weekend I went to an estate sale of a former teacher and was able to buy a really big bin of old stickers. When I say old, I'm talking 1980s types of stickers. Some of them were school stickers, but most of them were like stationery stickers that you would buy at a Hallmark store. And I added those to my sticker collection and really just wanted to use them because there were some really cute ones in there. So I found a few that would work. A couple of them were phrases. Some of them were just some hearts that came from some stationery stickers. And I felt like they kind of conveyed the message that I was going for here. And once I added those, I feel like this layout is done, and I like how it all came together. I'm good with the colors and how they kind of play off of each other. It's nice and bright, but it's not overpowering. I like the grid that I have going on with the photos. It's not something I normally do, but I think because I didn't keep it precisely linear and straight across, I think that kind of lets my style shine through. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I totally appreciate you spending time watching this long video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And I would absolutely love it if you would share this with a friend, give me a thumbs up or subscribe. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye.